I recorded this video this morning. I got everything finished, took about an hour or so. I then loaded it into my video editor and there was no sound. Yes, I had forgotten for the first time to switch the microphone on. All gone for nothing. So I came back this evening and started again and forgot a second time to switch the microphone on. This is therefore for the third time of asking. I have quadruple checked that the microphone is switched on, so we're good to go. One of the consequences of doing this recording in the evening rather than the morning is that I'm using unnatural light, and this is causing, if you're seeing what I'm seeing right now, a very strange effect of two computer screens in my eyes. I know that's usually the case to a degree, but it looks a lot worse than usual at the moment. If I do this, it looks faintly ridiculous, so I'm going to have to be stuck with the best of bad options. Anyway, the documentary 2000 Mules investigates potential postal ballot dumping in the US 2020 presidential election, where these alleged ballot mules traffic postal ballots in a way similar to the way that drug mules traffic drugs, hence the use of the word mules, of which there were approximately 2,000. And these alleged mules illegally take bunches of postal ballots to ballot boxes, post boxes, and stuff them in. Whether or not the ballots initially were legal or fraudulent is beside the point, because once they are subject to an illegal process, they become by definition illegal. I will briefly break off here and say, take this opportunity to like the video if you would. I say that particularly because this video is not going to be a comfortable spoon feeding of a litany of right-wing MAGA talking points. I would hope that nobody at this point would expect that from me anyway, but just in case anybody was thinking, I will say that. The video will start off with some material which I think some people might find a little challenging, shall we say. So it might be a good opportunity or a good idea to click like on the video, watch the video in its entirety, and then decide whether you like it or not. And if you don't like it, you can always click the like off at the end. Okay, so what happened here was that the movement of people was tracked using cell phone data, using data which was recorded on their cell phones. This is an example of what was yielded, and I will get back to this in a couple of minutes. The very first thing that occurred to me when I saw this documentary was that this was the single most egregious evidence of population surveillance that I have ever come across. This is the quintessence of the surveillance state. The conservative right wing is always up in arms about population surveillance, invasion of privacy, as they should be. Now it seems they're completely happy with this astonishing level of just that same surveillance. Do I question, or am I in any way surprised by, this apparent crashing hypocrisy? Of course I'm not. I know perfectly well that nobody is concerned about population surveillance when it's the good guys who are doing the surveilling and it's the bad guys who are being surveilled. I know it's not about any individual issue and all about playing the same inevitable, retarded game of cowboys and Indians online. I'm not remotely surprised by this, but it is something worth mentioning, because if the good guys can surveil, unfortunately the bad guys can surveil as well. It has to be the same for each one. Something I think worth considering at least. There is also this problem which happens right at the start of the video. Please do not get played for fools.
We have put together, I think, the most extensive and inclusive voter fraud organization in the history of American politics.
So here's the thing. Dinesh D'Souza, who made this documentary, knew that Biden was not in that video announcing to the world, hey, guess what, universe, I've got an operation to cheat people. D'Souza knows perfectly well that Biden was trying to say, we've put together this fraud operation as a way to counter fraud. That Biden was saying the opposite of what he actually said, because that's his garbled way of talking. So he puts that out there at the front, at the top of his video, to stir up his audience and make them more receptive to the video that's coming, knowing that they don't understand, many people, what Biden was actually saying. If Biden had actually said what he'd intended to say, then D'Souza would never have used it. So in the first place, he's basically lying to you. He's being deceptive. He's being dishonest. He's putting something out there, and he's putting a video clip out there to allow the wrong interpretation of it to percolate for his purposes, because it suits him to stir up his audience and think, oh yeah, Biden was announcing to the world that he's got this cheat operation going. And at the same time, obviously, he's treating his audience like idiots. Now, I know exactly, says D'Souza, what Biden was trying to say. I would never have used that video clip if he'd spoken the way he intended to speak. But I'm going to put that out there because I know they won't understand it. He's treating his audience like idiots. You shouldn't fall for that. And when he does that, your response should be, okay, I'm going to watch the video, but now that I know that you're a bit of a slippery little bitch, I'm going to bear that information in mind, and I'm going to be all the more critical of what you do. You don't get away with trying to treat me like that, and he shouldn't get away with it. You shouldn't let him get away with that kind of thing. Anyway, they purchased this cell phone tracking data, which it turns out is an entirely legal thing to do, and they used the data to track these alleged ballot mules. This is an example of such. The thin blue line is the apparent direction taken by the person as they're walking along, and often stopping, as may be the case, tracked by his cell phone. The little yellowy dots are the locations of the ballot boxes, and the bigger blue dots are apparently distribution centres of some description. This graphic shows one individual walking past the locations of about 25 ballot boxes. Their starting point was individuals who apparently passed at least 10 ballot boxes, so if they passed 7 or 8 or 9, they didn't include that information. So it was quite a high bar of entry, starting with passing 10 boxes, and it went up to apparently as many as 50. We don't know, to the best of my knowledge, the field of accuracy of the tracking. So if the data is accurate to within 2 meters, say, then this evidence is extremely compelling. If it's accurate to within 100 meters, the whole exercise is meaningless and we've been sold a pup, because we don't know anything really if it was that inaccurate about the actual passage of the people. The implication from all of this is that the field of tracking is really quite narrow. It looks that way, but as far as I'm aware, we don't know. Assuming a tight field of accuracy with a starting point of 10 ballot box passings, the evidence would be pretty damning. And they also say they ruled out people whose daily activity prior to the placement of the boxes went along the direction of the boxes, so that there would be no coincidences. They say they ruled out all of that. We don't know if these were Republican supporting or Democrat supporting mules. However, this is damning. In Atlanta, out of 242 potential mules, fully 67 were identified as having attended Black Lives Matter Antifa-type rallies. Is it really the case that out of 242 identified potential mules, over a quarter were hardcore left-wing activists, and that's a coincidence? This was 242 random people randomly passing ballot boxes, and by pure chance, over a quarter of them were hardcore left-wing activists. Is that really, realistically, a coincidence? That could be some of the most compelling evidence of the whole lot, I think. There are also some seemingly inexplicable anomalies. Gloves and taking photos. This girl, who is apparently a resident of South Carolina, not Georgia, where this is taking place, is delivering ballots wearing surgical gloves, which she takes off after the job's done and dumps them in the rubbish bin just behind. She's wearing surgical gloves to prevent her from getting COVID-19 from the ballots, in which case she's protecting herself from herself if she's delivering her own ballot, or she's protecting herself from her own family members who she most likely lives with, which is very strange. And if she's protecting herself from COVID-19 from complete strangers, fair enough, but then that would be illegal. Is it really plausible that she would be delivering ballots on the part of Uncle Ernie, who lives on the other side of town, somewhere entirely different, and she's worried about his exact circumstances, so she's wearing gloves to... That all seems a little bit implausible. The documentary suggests that what these people, and there's certainly more than one, are actually doing in wearing gloves is trying to avoid leaving fingerprints on the ballots. That does seem a lot more plausible. Also, taking photographs of the ballot boxes. This lad here has already done the job. He's posted his ballots, he parks his bike, gets his cell phone out and takes a photo. Does he really want a souvenir of the process? And here's another one. This lad takes the photo of himself while he's in the act of posting the ballots into the ballot box. And this lad is doing it in broad daylight with other people watching. Takes his photo, checks that the monumental stash of ballots he's posted in has actually gone down, snaps his phone shut, and off he goes, happy as you like. How the hell am I going to get this massive lot down? It seems very strange to want to take a photo record of this as a souvenir. On the other hand, as the documentary suggests, it may be the case that a photo record is necessary of the event in order to get paid. That does seem to be a lot more plausible. There is no other conceivable explanation I can think of for going through all this malarkey. However, wearing gloves and taking photos is not illegal. It may seem implausible, it may seem indicative of skullduggery, but it is not illegal. Now listen here to what Larry Elder on the film asks the woman who's part of the True the Vote project. He asks his question while she's speaking, so you have to listen quite carefully.
So we're seeing videos of one.
Right.
But each one of these, went to...
On average,
Do you have
23
video
times.
of the same guy going different places?
Yes. Right. This is their pattern of life.
Do you have video of the same person going to different places? Answer, yes.
Do you have
23
video
times.
of the same guy going different places?
Yes.
Then why is this not publicised in the documentary? Why is this massive slam dunk missing? They offer the following explanation. Why doesn't 2000 Mules show the same person going to multiple drop boxes as claimed? We do have video showing the same person at multiple drop boxes. Some of that footage was shown in the first trailer. It was taken out because the video is extremely poor quality. We address this issue in the film. Most jurisdictions had no video, or if they did, it was illegally destroyed. Of what does exist, 85% of it is bad, the camera poorly positioned, out of focus, the video compiled out of chronological sequence, inexplicably missing blocks of days and times. We will soon be releasing all of the raw video footage so America can see for itself. So why not in the film? The image quality doesn't matter. The geospatial data, all this stuff here, of which this is just one example, this nails the person at the Dropbox location. We know, or rather they know, who this person is. We just don't see him go to the box. The noose is not quite tied. As long as the video evidence shows some kind of a human form, some kind of a human blob, posting ballots, and as long as there's no other kind of a human form in the field of view at the time allowed, indicated by the geolocation data, you don't need to see the identity of the person on the video, because they've already been identified by the geolocation data. Their identity has been identified. All you need to see them doing is actually posting the ballots and not simply walking by total coincidence. So geolocation data plus even crappy video evidence, that equals case closed at that point. Why the hell isn't that in the film? We do have video showing the same person at multiple drop boxes. We will soon be releasing all of the raw video footage so America can see for itself. So is it fit for consumption or not? And if you're going to release it, why wasn't it released in the film? This makes zero sense unless the accuracy field of the geolocation data is very wide, and what you see here isn't actually what the person was doing at all. They were miles off this track, and these lines have been deceptively drawn to make it look like they were passing ballot boxes. I don't know. The geolocation data looks bad, but we might be assuming a very narrow field of accuracy, which might be wrong. If all these dots are accurate to a 2-meter radius, we're in business. If it's accuracy within 100 meters, bye-bye, none of this is relevant in the slightest. So gloves and photo taking all looks very suspicious, all looks very implausible. None of it is actually illegal, and it could be that I'm looking through all of that through the lens of my own prejudices and my own biases. If you take the geolocation data and you marry it to even the most grainy of video footage, i.e. confirming that all this is what we're led to believe it is, then oh dearie me, have some people got a problem, but we haven't got that. The geolocation data is not sufficient as far as I can see, unless we know that the tracking radius is extremely tight, and even then we need a bit of decent video footage to have absolutely slam dunk proven election misdemeanoring. So this is a ticking time bomb rather than absolute slam dunk evidence at this point. Of course there has been in the past absolute confirmed evidence presented. For example, Stephen Crowder did an absolutely excellent investigation into fake addresses of various people on the Nevada voter registry in early 2021. People registered as legal voters were found to live somewhere in that concrete wasteland, on this entirely uninhabited section of land in front of the fence, on that road right there, in that place of business, somewhere in that complete desert of emptiness, in front of that fence, in that garage it looks like, and in that car park, along with many other such obviously non-residential uninhabited places. Yes, those addresses of people on the Nevada voter registry were all fake. That video is on YouTube. I believe it was originally taken down, but I assume that Crowder's lawyer managed to get it put back again. It's on YouTube. It wouldn't be on YouTube if it wasn't completely, tightly, absolutely proven to be correct. That is proof. What we've got here, the geolocation data, it's compelling. If it's accurate to within about 2 meters, it's extremely compelling. It's probably not necessary proof. It's certainly sufficient to have a police investigation in place, I would have thought, but it's probably not proof. If you can marry that with even crappy video evidence, without another person being in the time frame at the same time, then you would have absolute slam dunk proof. We don't have that yet. I hope we do subsequently. The gloves, the taking of photos, all very hard to explain, all very suspicious, but that's not illegal. And I think that's where we are at this point in time.